Hello and welcome to Dating Alchemy with Jen Youngquist. I'm your host, Jen. And in this podcast, we are going to talk about how you can shift out of your current dating patterns so that you can finally find the mate that you dream of. So that was my issue for 20 plus years. And now being on the other side of it, I have completely dissected my patterns and what I was doing that was creating the results that I had. So I am here to share my knowledge with you. So stick around. I'm going to be giving away all of my secrets. But in this episode, I want to talk about the law of attraction and whether it's real or not. So I think some people don't think that the law of attraction is a real thing because they've tried to intentionally manifest something and it didn't go the way that they wanted. So I want to explore why that is today. And I want to say if I could give just one piece of advice to those of you who are where I was 14 years ago, it would be to learn about this and learn how to use it. Okay. So I think it's the number one thing that got me out of my relationship funk. And once I learned how to use the law of attraction to create on purpose, then I met the man who became my husband just 3 months later. I didn't get married 3 months later, but I met him 3 months after I learned how to purposefully manifest. And I think that I did talk about that in the first episode, how the things that I did to find him and how I intentionally used the law of attraction. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the things that I actually did and why that worked in this episode. So this is why I call myself a spiritual dating coach, basically. Um, as I understand these spiritual principles and laws on a deeper level, um, I pass it on. I pass it on to my clients. I use this highly in my coaching, and that's because it works. I believe 100% that it works because it worked for me. And I'm going to say the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself is learn how the universe actually works. There's a lot of bad info out there. There's a lot of misleading and not quite right info out there. So be careful what you Google. I did Google it and I came up with a lot of stuff that is misleading at best and wrong at worst. If you want to know how the universe actually works, I suggest that you find a book called The Kybalion. It's spelled Kybalion. And it was a book recommended to me by spiritual teachers that I trust. And it's a book written by the acolytes or the students of Hermes Trismegistus. And if you don't know who he was, I don't know exactly myself, but he was apparently very influential on some ancient civilizations, such as the Egyptians. And I guess you could probably think about him as maybe some kind of prophet or some kind of channeler where he was given this information and he wrote it down and he taught it, and it's been passed down for millennia since then. So some of these students decided to put it into a book to get it out there in the world. And it's not an easy read. I'm going to tell you that. It will hurt your brain a little bit. You might have to read it a couple times. But the 7 main laws are outlined in that book. And it does kind of touch on some of the more tangential or smaller principles, spiritual principles. So it is a great start to really understanding how things work. And I'm going to tell you, the law of attraction is not in that book. And that is because the law of attraction is not really a law. It is the result of all of those spiritual principles working together. Okay, so it's not just one law or principle, it is the outcome. It is what happens when all of the other laws are working together. It's how we create. Okay, the law of attraction is really how humans have the power to create. Okay, and just as our creator creates with the mind, so do we. Okay, we have been given the same powers as our creator to bring things to life, right? We can build from raw materials, right? We reproduce, we duplicate ourselves through the miracle of reproduction. And we also create with our mind. Before we can build with raw materials, we have to have an idea, don't we? We have to have a plan. And then we take action to bring that plan to life. That's how we create. Everything around you in your life is something that you created. So I have this lamp sitting on my desk, and it's here because I had the thought, I really need a lamp for my desk. So I went out and I bought one. Actually, this one was given to me. So someone said, "Hey, you want this lamp?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need this lamp." So I now have a lamp. Okay. That is creation at the most basic level. All right. But we can fine tune our creations, right? If, say, for this lamp, I was like, hey, there's a certain kind of lamp that I want. It has to have, it has to be metal. Maybe it needs a thin stem. Maybe it has, a certain brightness, right? I come up with all of that beforehand, and I buy a lamp that fits what's in my brain, right? If I don't have any specificity when I go to buy a lamp, I just end up with whatever I'm attracted to, right? Which may or may not fit when I think about it, what I really needed in a lamp. Okay. So we can create intentionally, and we create unintentionally, unconsciously. But the thing I want you to understand is we are always creating. We're always creating. We're just not always shaping that creation. Okay, so when you say that you have, quote, tried manifesting, we'll say, a partner or the kind of partner that you want, and it didn't work for you, I'm going to push back a little bit and say it sure as hell did work for you, right? You got the result of what was in your brain, period. That's always how it works. Okay. So backing up a little bit here. At its core, the law of attraction is saying that we are constantly emitting energetic vibrations based on our predominant thoughts and emotions. And these vibrations then interact with the vibrational field of the universe and draw back corresponding experiences and circumstances that align with our energetic state. Right? It is basically saying that your thoughts, your emotions, beliefs, and intentions that you hold inside yourself have a direct influence on the experiences and circumstances you attract into your life. You can think of manifestation as the byproduct of a dominant frequency and vibration, meaning you bring to life whatever is in your dominant frequency and vibration. So if you're gloom and doom, you create more of that, right? So what does that mean for intentional manifestation that doesn't work for you, right? So if you read the Kabbalion, one of the laws in there is the law of vibration. And the law of vibration at a high level, it basically says everything is in movement, everything is vibrating. And motion is constant. So what that really means is that everything is energy because everything is vibration. So your desk is nothing but energy. It's just the individual molecules are moving at a much, much slower rate than, say, something that's a gas, right? Remember back to your junior high science where you learn the phases of matter, right? It's the exact same thing. So therefore, it's saying that what you think and what you believe become real things. They have a vibration, they have an energy to them. And that energy comes out into your electromagnetic field. So everything I'm talking about here has been stuff that science has proven, is in the process of proving, like quantum physics is proving a lot of these universal laws are actually real and that are happening. Okay, so this isn't really all woo-woo stuff. It's literally how the universe is designed and how it works. So you may not have ever thought of your body before as one big energy projecting and receiving machine, but it is, right? You have an energy circulatory system, just like you have a blood circulatory system. We have the chakra system. So if you've taken yoga before, you may have heard chakras be mentioned. If you haven't, just kind of think of it as we have energy centers that run, well, that run along our main energy channel in the spine. Okay. So there's 7 main ones, but we actually have hundreds all over our body, basically. And these chakras help to send energy from our body and bring in signals that we come into contact with, right? So it interacts with and helps create our electromagnetic field. So you can think of like this dome around our body that can extend up to 12 feet. So we are constantly bumping up against electromagnetic fields from other people, animals, even things. Like I'm in this electromagnetic field of my computer right now. Okay, and so my body's having to filter out a bunch of things that I don't really need to know about. Okay, so your brain is filtering billions of pieces of information that it's not deeming as necessary for you to know about. So you don't, otherwise you'd be overwhelmed. Okay. But you're constantly sending and receiving energy signals. This has been proven by science. HeartMath is a company that has based their products and services on this. So therefore, whatever you're thinking and believing, that has an effect on your emotions, which in turn has an effect on your energy, your vibration, and it has an effect on the actions that you take. And the actions that you take are actually what does the creating, okay? Because that's bringing into your life the things that you are intending to have, right? So if you want a relationship, you can't just sit on the couch and expect it to materialize. You have to take some kind of action, whether that's getting on a dating app and actually getting out and meeting people, or whether, it's being out in the world and meeting people. You have to take some sort of action. And at the end of the day, you have to make a choice about that person that comes into your life that maybe wants a date with you, right? You have to make a choice. And for a lot of us, we choose people that align with our dominant way of thinking, that align with our own energetics at the time. So if you find yourself picking wrong, then you have to take a moment to really examine what's going on in your brain. What are you believing right now that is creating, that's bringing these people into your life, that's making you choose these people? All right. So what I'm going to tell you is you have met, like if you're thinking that it's not your fault, it's that there's just no good ones left, there aren't any people out there that are going to meet your criteria for a relationship, what you know in your brain that you want, I'm going to tell you, you have met these people. You've met them. They're out there. But you have filtered them out because they didn't match your vibration. They didn't match your energy. They didn't match what is going on in your electromagnetic field. And I know you want to say that's bullshit, that you know what you want. Honey, I know. I know you do. Your brain tells you that you want these certain things. Okay? You want to find someone who will support you. You want to find someone who will offer you love without you having to work for it. You want to find someone who is consistent, who will choose you. I know. I wanted that too. But I still was choosing the ones who were doing the exact opposite of that. And that's because I had some thoughts and beliefs that I was not aware of. And those are what's running the show because they're the predominant thoughts and vibration. That's what I was putting out in my electromagnetic field. That is why I was getting more of those kind of people, and they were resonating with me. So the law of resonance is one of the main principles, spiritual principles and laws. You may have heard, you may even use the term like, oh, I resonate with that. I like that. That jives with what I believe, right? So the law of resonance is similar energies and vibrations attract and resonate with each other. So that suggests that like attracts like. When two frequencies are in harmony or resonance, they have a natural tendency to come together and interact. So it's often, this concept is often expressed in a popular saying, birds of a feather flock together, right? The law of resonance is the basis for attraction. We are attracted to things, experiences, people that are just like us or that we are familiar with. Okay, it's that familiarity. And you might be saying, but I thought opposites attract. No, ma'am. No, opposites do not attract. Look at freaking magnets. You put the two, um, you know, poles and all of that. If you have found that that is your experience, so say you're an introvert and you tend to attract extroverts, that does not mean you're attracting the opposite of you. You attract people that might have some opposite qualities of you, but I bet when you look under the hood, you have more in common than you don't. So you probably share the same values. You probably are both willing to be vulnerable to the same amount. Um, there's just more energetic similarity than there is different. Because if there wasn't, you wouldn't be attracted to them. You wouldn't want to be around them. Okay? So you can also think of it this way, like you may have, say you have friends or family who believe maybe the exact opposite you do politically, right? You may not really want to be around them at some points, right? They don't believe the same things that you do. Um, you might you might find that when they say some things, it makes you feel kind of like, ugh. um, you're going to start to limit your time around them. If, say, they're maybe um, more on the end of the spectrum than you are, that's going to end up repelling you at some point. It's going to be hard to be around them and have to always watch what you say. That gets exhausting. So you're going to kind of limit your time around them. That's just what happens naturally. We don't want to spend time around people that make us uncomfortable. So attraction means you're going to spend time with people who match your ideals, your energy, your beliefs. You're going to, in relationships, you're going to pick people that are going to reaffirm those things for you. All right. So if you're picking people that ultimately are not right for you, and you keep doing this over and over again, that means it's time to take a look at what's under the hood for you. What are you thinking? What are you believing that these people are resonating with and that you are resonating with in them? Okay. So let's Well, the other thing I want to kind of talk about here is that could be hindering your ability to manifest a partner is understanding also the law of reciprocity. Okay, so reciprocity basically is saying by contributing to the well-being of others in the world, individuals create a positive energetic flow that often returns to them in the form of support, opportunities, and fulfillment. So if you find that you tend to pick people who don't support you, don't want to help fulfill your needs, right? Who don't care about your needs, maybe they're selfish. Um, I think you need to maybe pay attention to this law. So, reciprocity, you can think of it as your value bank, basically. So, you're giving generously, maybe through acts of kindness, compassion, service. Um, you're supposed to be getting those things back in return, in abundance. So the more you put into your value bank, the more you should be getting back. However, you still have to manage the balance in harmony with that. So you need to be in synchronistic, aligned harmony with the universe on this one. A harmony must exist between you and all things, and it's up to you to manage that balance and harmony. So you've probably noticed there are a lot of takers in the world, but it's still your responsibility to balance that energy. There's always a giving and a receiving. And it's not the other person's responsibility to balance that. And this is where I think a lot of people, especially if you tend to be a people pleaser, you disempower yourself by giving that power to others. You feel like if they loved you, that they would pick up that slack and take responsibility for that. But that is just not how it happens in the universe. This universal law is even saying that is not how it happens, and that is not their responsibility. All right? Don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of. So instead of feeling bad about making someone mad by speaking up, you should feel bad that allowing the out of balance is causing more harm to them and you than simple negative emotions, right? Boundaries are for balance. So what that means is if you're not willing to create that balance and you let people just take and take and take, and then you get upset because they're not willing to give back to you, but yet you're not demanding that, you're not telling them to give back to you. Like you are creating that reality. Okay, you're letting takers in. And then you're getting mad at them for taking. It's not how it works, and the universe is telling us this. Okay? The universe is still saying you gotta institute a balance of power here. It's your responsibility to do that. And that I think is what a lot of people get wrong is they like to take that power and give it to someone else. So if there's no other empowering piece you take from this, it's this one. Okay? The universe is literally telling you it is your responsibility to manage the balance, not someone else's. And if you're getting upset and feeling resentment for that, you can only look to yourself for that. You are the only one that can change that. You are not going to change other people. And the only way that you're going to be able to change that is if you take responsibility for it. You institute boundaries. You tell people what you need and stand up for it. So, if you've tried to intentionally manifest a partner who's going to be supportive, but they always turn out to be selfish takers, you need to look at this piece. Okay. The universe is literally telling you take responsibility for the boundaries and institute them. So, maybe your relationship themes are feeling unsupported. People have taken control over you. There's people pleasing, imbalance of power. Start to take note and learn how to make this law work for you. Okay. So that's a major one. And it's one where you're not super aware of either, right? And so this is floating around out in your electromagnetic field. And anyone who is prone to being a selfish taker is going to be like, yep, that's what I'm looking for right there. And if you're prone to being a selfless giver and don't expect anything in return, you're a perfect energetic match then, aren't you? This is how it works. Like that resonance between you two is huge. And sometimes you can't not choose it because that resonance is so strong. It's so strong. All right. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to awareness, being willing to take a look at how you might have created a certain situation. So I'm gonna kind of lay it out with my story here of how I was creating my situation. So I had parents who were emotionally unavailable. They really did not know how to connect with me. And it kind of left me with some, at the time, they were very helpful patterns that helped me to survive. So some of my patterns were to really become invisible. So I would like pull my energy in. I would try to become invisible. I didn't want to be seen by anyone because in my mind being seen um meant hurt, meant that I was likely to get hurt. I didn't want to let anybody in because I was always disappointed when I did. So um if I wanted love, I had to do something to get it. I had to like be the good girl. I had to prove myself in some way. And um a large part of the way that I did that was excelling in school, because that got me good attention and um, for the most part, unless you have a judgmental parent that is like, okay, well, you got an A minus, why isn't it an A plus? That kind of stupid shit. So, um, I felt like I needed validation from other people that I was okay. I didn't, I couldn't give that validation to myself at the time. So what I ended up doing was choosing people, especially at first, that treated me like a doormat. I had some people pleasing tendencies at the beginning, um, because that's one way I managed the anger of my parents was the people pleasing. So I never asked for anything. I didn't ask anyone to fulfill my needs, because I had never had anyone fulfill my needs. I didn't even know I had needs, for being completely honest. Sure as hell would not have known how to ask for that to be met. So choosing people who were not going to give back to me, were not going to be supportive, were not going to let me in. Um, the early relationships were really hard because they were people that really treated me poorly. And I didn't know why. It just served to reinforce what I already thought about the world. And that's what I think you guys are doing as well. Like you're seeing results of your relationships and you're like, "See? Yep, I knew it. Can't trust people." I knew it. That's what happens when you let people in. Yeah, I know. I did the same thing and it just hardened my heart and just basically brought me more of the same thing, right? I was choosing people who like we would have a great first few dates or so, and I was like, "Man, I'm so attracted to this person. I'm in love." And then it's like once they knew they had me on the hook, they just kind of backed off and they stopped being consistent. Would sometimes answer calls and texts and sometimes not. Sometimes would make plans with me, sometimes not. They would go MIA for a bit. And all of this just served to make me try harder, right? Um, some of the guys that I dated they like didn't even want a relationship with me. They didn't want me. They just wanted some of my time and they wanted sex. And that's really all they wanted. They got their fill and then they left, right? And these were the guys I was the most attracted to. I would let these relationships drag on for like years. All because I was trying to, and I wasn't conscious of this at the time, but I was trying to win them over because if I could win them over, how special would I be? Right? If I could win over that guy, if I could get that uh really emotionally unavailable guy to see what a catch I was, then he would have to want me, wouldn't he? Then I would be special. And that would give me the validation that I was looking for. So the more emotionally unavailable, the bigger the challenge, the more I was attracted to this person. And I think some of you might be doing the same thing, right? Especially if you feel bad about some of the choices that you've made and you feel like you just, I hated myself for some of the choices that I made, but I felt like I couldn't help it. I was just so attracted to these people that I couldn't not. But what I didn't know at the time was I was only attracted to those people because they fit or they matched my predominant thinking and vibration that I unknowingly had out in my electromagnetic field. So the only way I could shift out of that was to eventually become aware of those thoughts and beliefs that were circulating in my field that I didn't know about. And it can be hard to to understand those things. It can be hard to to see them, right? They're called blind spots for a reason. They're not immediately available to you. You have to do some work to uncover them, and that can that can take a while. It really can. This is why I'm a coach. This is exactly what I do. I help you to find those blind spots, those things that are out in your field that are making you choose the relationships and experiences that you ultimately don't really want, but you don't know why. And instead, they just serve to make you feel like there's something wrong with you, or you feel like, God, source, creator doesn't want you to have this. All right. That is never, ever the case. You have free will for a reason, and you can create absolutely anything that you want. But you first have to be that thing. You have to be a match for that thing. So if you want a loving, supportive, uh, free, expansive relationship, you have to first be those things yourself. You have to know how to support yourself, right? You have to be willing to stand up for and put yourself first. So, what I want you to think about here is, if a relationship is something that you really want, but you're also scared to attempt to find it again, you're afraid of being hurt again, you don't trust yourself, you're afraid you're going to choose wrong again, then the best thing you can do, well, there's a few things. First, I would encourage you to get really clear on what it is that you want. And you might be saying, "Oh, I know what I want." "Huh, okay, maybe most of it." But I guarantee you there are some of you that have never really sat down and thought about what you really want. And I think it needs to be based on your vision for your life. All right. So if you don't know where you want to go, if you don't know what you want for yourself overall, you need to do that. You need to spend some time visioning that. And I know some of you will even have trouble doing that. That's another thing that I help people do. I help you to connect with yourself, your higher self, your body, your intuition, all of it. That, my friends, is probably the biggest gift that I could give you. Because if you can do that, you're eventually going to figure the rest out, just like I did. Like, there's none of this you can't do on your own. I did this all on my own. But if you value your time, you should get some help because it can take a long time to get all of the things figured out, just like it did with me. That's probably the if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be to get some help. Get help figuring this out. Don't waste another 4, 5, 8 years, in several relationships and more heartache to try to figure this out. Find someone that can help you connect the dots. And back then, I there wasn't a lot of coaches out there. There might have been, I just didn't know to look for them. Boy, if I would have just had a few key understandings, man, things would have changed for me so fast. Um, and they can for you too. All right. So don't be afraid to get some help connecting those dots. Because I'm here to tell you it's not an easy thing to see for yourself. And I know there's a lot of other coaches that can't even really help you connect those dots. This happens to be my gift. I can see patterns pretty quickly. Um, I can tie them back to things that happened, in your past, and I can help you work to clear them. And once you do, you're going to have a different electromagnetic signal that you're putting out there into the world. So you are going to be creating different things in your life, including better relationships. You're going to be able to see the red flags faster. You're going to be able to choose wiser. You're going to be able to say no to things you know that are not aligned for you. And that's really where you want to get to. All right. It's not that you're not going to meet people that aren't aligned with you. You are. They're going to come in, but you need to be able to recognize them faster and you need to be able to say no a lot faster and then create the space for the next one to come in. There'll be a lot less heartache. It will get easier and eventually you're going to find what you're looking for. It has to happen. That's literally what the laws are telling us. There's nothing that you can't have if you want it. You just have to get your own vibration in line with it. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about this, I'd love to know them. Um, put them in the comments. You can always reach out to me. All my information is going to be in the show notes. So I would love to hear from you if you would like. I will link my workshop that I did back in, it was a couple months ago. That maybe does a little bit a deeper dive into the, um, what's behind the spiritual laws. All right. So see you all next week. Have a lovely rest of your day.